Hari Om, everyone, and welcome back to our Lalita-Sahasranama session. I'll start with meditation as always, the short meditation, but at the end of the session we will have another meditation, because just talking about our supreme Chitti Shakti, the energy of our consciousness, is not very useful if we don't meditate. Sindhuraruna vigraham trinayanam manikyamolis purat taranayaka shekharam smitamukhi mapi navakshoruham panimyamalipurnaratna chashakam raktotpalam bibhratim saumyam ratnaghatastaractacharanam dhyayet paramambikam Dhyayet padmasanastham vikasitavadanam padmapatrayatakshim hemabham pitavastram karakalitalasadhema padmam varangim sarvalankarayuktam satatamabhayadam bhaktanamram bhavanim Shri Vidyam Shantamurtim Sakalasuраnutam sarvasampatpradatrim Sakunkumavilepanamalikachumbikasturikam Samandahasite kshanam sacharachapapashankusham Asheshajanamohinim arunamalya-bhusham varam Japakusumabhasuram japavidhau smaredambikam Arunam karunatarangitakshim Dhritapashankushapushpapanachapam Animadibhiravritam mayukhairahamityeva vibhavaye bhavanim. So now, for a moment, relax completely into your own heart space. The center of the heart, there is something very magical, something very profound, which is the very base of our own consciousness. Our consciousness is centered in the heart. It is here that our sense of identity and experience arises moment to moment. So when you return with your attention to the heart, you can relax into that. And just let whatever thoughts come, whatever sensations arise, you let them come like small waves and you let them pass. And now know that this very ordinary consciousness that you have, that is active in you, is in its essence divine. It is not just an ordinary mind. It is something that is divine in its essence. It is like a divine energy in you that gives rise to everything. So knowing that, once again relax as you did before. And as I go through the names now, which are simply a list of descriptions of this divine essence, try to go along with it in your heart. This divine Chitti Shakti, this energy of consciousness that is present in you, that you experience in your heart, is ever peaceful, Shantimati. It depends on nothing. In contrast to all the other things we have, our body, our minds, our emotions, our thoughts, which always depend on something, this innermost energy of consciousness depends on nothing. It is Niradhara. Or we can also say she is Niradhara, because Chitti Shakti can be described as a feminine, motherly energy, which is then Lalita Tripurasundari. This innermost essence in you always remains untouched, untainted. Nothing can affect it. She is Niranjana. Nothing can stick to it. No experience can cause it to be less or even more. This innermost Chitti Shakti, energy of consciousness, energy of awareness, is free from all impurities. It is only your mind that has impurities. Your body has impurities. But this innermost aspect of you has no impurities whatsoever. And it is a perpetual essence. It is not an essence that you have and then you lose it. It is always there. She, Lalita, as your very own essence, is always present. It has no form, or she has no form. Because anything that has form will pass away. This body of ours will pass away. Even our thoughts will no longer exist one day. This whole world here will no longer exist one day. But that essence will still be there. And this essence is without any agitation. No one can shake it. No one can break it. This essence is beyond the three gunas of nature: sattva, rajas, tamas. Sattva is clarity or purity. Rajas means activity. And tamas means dullness, darkness, idleness. This essence that is there in you, the center of your heart, is beyond these. This essence has no parts. It is not that one part of it is here and another part of it is somewhere else. It is no parts. Like a boundless space. goes in all directions and is just light, just luminous. Space has no parts. We can put a covering over space, but that does not cause it to be separate. The moment we remove that covering or vessel, the space in the vessel and outside is again the same. Similarly, this essence in us seems to be different in me and seems to be different in you, because our bodies, our minds, our emotions are different. But the very energy of consciousness that makes it possible for us to experience anything is not really different. It is ultimately the same in you and me. That is what is so beautiful. That is why there is ultimately nothing ever to be afraid of. I can't be afraid of you if your ultimate essence is the same as in me. My fear can be temporary. My troubles, my problems can be temporary. But knowing that our true identity, our true nature, is this boundless presence, the divine Lalita, that makes us free from all problems. The root of problems, as Buddha explained, is desire. She is free from desire. This innermost essence in our heart is completely happy in itself, totally satisfied, totally contented. It is indestructible. And it is always free. Whatever can happen, it is not bound. It is nitya mukta, ever free. And it is not subject to change. Nirvikara, the changes of desire, upset, jealousy, envy, worry, trouble, all these changing states that occur in our mind do not exist for this essence. It is free of this whole world, even though the whole world appears like in a dream. Incredible things can happen. I once had a dream that seemed to go on for ages, for 2 months. And then I woke up and I realized I was just dreaming. Similarly, this energy of consciousness has produced this incredible experience of the world. It has not produced, rather it has made it possible. The production is done through karmas, endless karmas, cause, effect, that brings about all our experiences. But the experiences are made possible through the energy of consciousness. It is like the light in the cinema. Without the light on the projector, the pictures being projected would not appear. Such is the energy of consciousness. And it is ever pure. It is always Buddha, Nitya Buddha. It is always enlightened, always awakened. It is completely blameless. Like the mirror cannot be blamed for the pictures that you see in the mirror. For instance, if Shivaniji looks in the mirror and is unhappy by what she sees, or happy, both is possible, then you cannot blame the mirror for what you see in the mirror. She's exactly like that. She makes it possible for us to experience, but we cannot blame her for the experiences. It's a very subtle point. People like to blame a deity or a god. Why is this happening to me? I have back pain. Why me? But this is very important to understand. Whatever happens in our experiences, in our life, is the result of previous causes. If we truly accept this, we are wise. Because then we will take responsibility for those causes, and we will not create new negative causes that will produce negative results. The law of cause and effect is very subtle. People like to believe that only the actual actions matter, not so much the state of mind, but that is not true. Sri Krishna explained in the Gita that the state of mind matters very much. The true problem is the state of mind behind the action. So, pay close attention to your states of mind. It's very important, and it sounds a little bit Catholic when we talk like this, but it is not Catholic in the sense of, cautioning or warning people to be good. It's not meant in this way only, but it is like a science of consciousness that our ancient dharma, the rishis, discovered. That, for instance, the emotion of anger is related to demonic things, demonic energy. Asuri sampat in the Gita. So people just like to be angry sometimes. Happens to me too. But this emotion of anger is poison, really. It is not anything auspicious. So the point is not that we will be punished for having anger. It is rather that the emotion of anger contains in itself a poison which causes later consequences, later suffering, visible and invisible. Drishta means visible, seen, and invisible is the karmic result that comes about. So if we have anger, a lot of anger, it really means it will produce a negative karmic result in the future, even if we don't act on that anger, my dears. It is not just the actions that matter. It is really also the emotion. Very important to understand. But the Lalita-Sahasranama here is telling us that our innermost essence is beyond all this. Thus, by connecting with Lalita Devi as our innermost essence, or any form of that essence, we are able to rise above these states. We are able to slowly rise above anger, above envy, negativity in general. She has no gaps. She's nirantara. It is not that she falls asleep and then wakes up again. We might symbolically bring her to bed, as is done in the temples, but she herself is ever awake, always wakeful. And although we are subject to so many causes and effects, she herself is free from causes. She is free from conditions. What is a condition? Conditioning. Most of us have become the people we are through innumerable conditions, innumerable conditionings. One aspect are our parents, another aspect is our schools, our education systems, the cultural ideas that have been conveyed to us, some scars that we have received or not received. Some are very fortunate to receive good samskars. Others come under the influence of negative samskars. All this is called conditioning, that which shapes our personalities, our characters, our minds, our aspirations, our goals. Some people feel content just aspiring for wealth, more and more success. For some people it works. For many, at some point, there is a crash. They feel exhausted. They feel demotivated. Thus, everyone has different conditionings. We cannot say that there is even one person who has exactly the same conditioning. Everyone is unique. But here, the essence in us, Chitti Shakti, which in this text is Lalita Tripurasundari, is beyond conditioning, beyond any conditions of any kind. There is no superior to her. It is not that she is in a hierarchy and she sits somewhere below. She is Nirishvara. Even Shiva is not superior to her. She is free from any overlord, anyone lording over her. And she has no attachment. This is sometimes a bitter one to digest, that we call her our mother, the Divine Mother, but in truth, she has no attachment. The love that she has is a different kind of love. It is not a love that is caught up by what it loves. Very deep. Whereas our love usually is caught up by what we love. Our emotions are entangled by what we love. We love our children and we want them to do well, but when something goes wrong or seems to go wrong, we are agitated, isn't it? So the love that she has is totally different. It is a boundless well-wishing Karuna Tarangitakshim. It is a overflowing of compassion, but totally free from attachment. Very difficult to digest, because we want a mother to be attached to us. That is what we know our mothers to be like from our ordinary, conventional lives. But this mother is not like that. Totally free. Please take that to heart, because in your essence, that is your true nature too. And when we realize this true nature, we are also filled with that same compassion for all, but we are also totally free from attachment. Because we become like the Divine Mother. And then it is a different way of living, different way of experiencing even. And she is Raga Matani. She cuts attachments. She destroys attachments. And that is also a difficult one to digest. The moment we seriously enter a spiritual path, usually our attachments will surface. Anyone who has practiced a little deeper will know about that. Our attachments begin to show, begin to become visible, because our innermost Guru is the deepest consciousness in us. And that being free from attachment wants to teach us, the mind, how to see its own attachments. So it is almost like light is brought into a messy room. All sadhakas and sadhikas know about this phenomenon. We begin to practice, and initially we feel a lot of joy, a lot of delight, a lot of inspiration. But then suddenly, all these things become visible. This messiness in us, all the hurts, previous impressions, vasanas, previous patterns begin to show. And then there are only two options. One is we face them with wisdom and sadhana, with devotion to the absolute divine, and continue our practice. The other option is we let what becomes visible, we let that dilute our practice. We let it distract us. We run away from facing it, and we go into more samsaric experiences. These are the only two options that happen. Of course, there is a mix. It's not black and white. Sometimes we fail to face them, fail to see the mess, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we are able to. So it is not black and white. And the greater our devotion, the greater our love for our true nature, the easier it gets. She's free from pride completely, even though she is the one who is entitled to be the most proud. But she is utterly free from pride. No, not even a little breeze of it is present in her. And being thus, she is Madanashini. She destroys pride. So when we engage on the spiritual path again, like our attachments, we also begin to realize our subtle pride. Pride is not only the outer people who are visibly proud. Pride is also very deep. Even those who seem humble externally are often very proud. It is a deeper pride, a sort of strong identification with certain achievements, which is understandable, absolutely, but on the path to liberation must be dissolved, because it is like a narrowing down of our being. It's like our being, which in truth is pure water, is narrowed down to an ice block by pride. When we are proud, it is like a narrowing of our being. Can you sense that? Whereas love, compassion is like space, very vast. The true love, the love free from attachment, the compassion free from attachment, is like space. Can you see that? Whereas pride, I did this. I have all these achievements. I have all these talents. People don't treat me well. People don't think well of me. Do you see what that does to our being? You see, that is why she helps us dissolve it. It is not that someone is coming and judging us and you are bad because you have this or that emotion. It is not like that. It is really because this emotion narrows us down. And that is not our true being. Very important to see the subtle, profound teaching here. She is free from worries. That is obvious because of the bliss that she is. And also, she is nirahankara. She is free from a sense of ego, a sense of I. This sense of I is really the root of all the other emotions that cause trouble, not only in a single life, over innumerable lifetimes. This grasping on to me, I, brings about the next embodiment or life after we die. This holding on to me rather than being able to surrender. When we can surrender and this sense of me dissolves, then there is no rebirth, no ordinary rebirth. And because she is free from this sense of I, she is also free from delusion. She sees everything as it is, not in any confused way. To see things in a confused way keeps us in samsaric experience. To think that our body is our true identity, our emotions are our true identity, our minds, our personalities, our character are our true identity, that is delusion. Because the moment we die, they're gone, or we leave them behind. So what continues then? That is our essence. Therefore, it can't be that our body or our emotions that we have now are our true identity. It should be obvious to everyone, and probably it is when one speaks about it, but that is the key problem here. That is the reason why we continue to suffer again and again. Now we talk about suffering. I sometimes meet younger people and they don't understand why we are always talking about suffering. And sometimes it takes time to really see that this samsara here is quite a messy place. But I think now, with this pandemic, it has become clear to everyone. We don't have to convince anyone anymore. And thus, being free from delusion herself, she is also able to destroy delusion in us when we connect with her deeply. She's nirmama, totally free from a sense of mine, possessiveness. I and mine, they go together. The moment there is a sense of me, a strong me, usually there is a sense of, and what belongs to me. That is why the great masters of old renounced everything. In order to renounce and dissolve the I, they renounced external possessions too. And sometimes I think that even today, that is the best path. Yet, we live in different times and we need to compromise a little. Nevertheless, the deeper we can work on ourselves. You see, you can't perhaps immediately remove the sense of mine and I, but you can work on yourself. How? By just bringing consciousness to it. She is the one who helps us dissolve them, so we need to just bring consciousness to it. For example, if you find yourself contemplating your bank account, which I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. That's all right. But then also contemplate, also just briefly be aware of the emotion that comes with that. Is there some sense of, my bank account, will it be forever? Will it grow? Is there a sense of stinginess or greed or... And again, we are not Catholics here. No one is judging you for that. The problem is just what it does to you, what it does to your being. It causes you to be so narrow. There is no vastness. And that narrowness will cause you to have future karmas, because it creates an imprint in your soul, if you want. But it's not your soul, really, because the soul is the essence. It is just in this karmic baggage that you have. It creates an imprint. And then when you die, I know we're always talking about death. We are like a death cult. I'm just joking now. But when you die, the problem is that this imprint, this narrowing down that you have caused to yourself, or that we have caused to ourselves, brings about the next life. This is the problem. So you have to work on yourself. Merely the effort of working on yourself is already very auspicious. Don't beat yourself up. That is not the practice here. It's just about bringing consciousness to it. Becoming aware of it. That's a great step already. Just becoming aware. For example, I've become more and more aware that when people are at a table, I usually do more talking. So I'm sort of dominating the talks. So now, being aware of that, I just take myself back a little and I observe. It doesn't mean I've beaten myself up. It doesn't mean I've changed myself or I'm feeling bad about myself. No, all I did was I brought awareness to it. You understand? Similarly, being free of any sense of mine and possessiveness, she helps us overcome the sense of possessiveness. She is free from papa. Papa has many ways of being translated. Some people translate it as sin. I would more say it is that which causes us to enter lower states. Patayati iti papam. It is that which causes us to enter lower states of being. So, as you know, there are different levels of being, and we are currently in a relatively good one, according to the scriptures, that of a human being. And there are lower states. So when we do negative things and when we have a lot of negative emotions, this is so important. I'm saying it again and again. I repeat myself 1,000 times for this, that negative emotions really cause negative consequences when we die. Please, if you take anything from this teaching, please take this seriously. If you have a lot of anger in you, you have to work on it now. Because it is not just the actions. It's not just that you are harming externally someone. Really, you are harming your own development. And I'm pretty convinced of this as being true, because I can see the effect of it even visibly in life. So why should the teaching of the rishis about the invisible effect be untrue? You see, the visible part is clear, that anger causes suffering like poison, and the invisible part that the rishis talked about is also clear. So please take it seriously. Anger is related to demonic states. Therefore, you must work on it. And of course, the Divine Mother helps us to work on it. So, connecting to her deeply in our heart, cultivating love, cultivating compassion as vast as space, these purify us. They make our being vast. And then there's nothing to worry. Then you won't hear my words. Similarly, she is nishkrodha. She's free from anger. I've spoken enough about anger for today. Therefore, she is krodha shamani. She helps anger to subside when we engage in practice. What does that mean? When we engage in awareness, when we engage in consciousness, when we know our states. That is what it means. When we know that there is anger in us, and we again and again observe the anger, slowly the anger subsides. That is what the meaning is here. She is nirlobha, without greed. And lobhanashini. She eliminates greed. She helps us eliminate greed when we engage with her, when we deeply connect with her. So now, for the last few minutes, let us relax again. You were supposed to be relaxed for the whole session, as I said in the beginning, but maybe I have worked you up a little. So now relax again, knowing that Lalita Triprasundari, Chitti Shakti, the energy of consciousness, of awareness, is ever present in you. as your very ground, like the very space in which you are. She's an unceasing nectar. And now for the rest of this short meditation, meditate on her as nectar. She's nectar, white, just white nectar. Don't think of her as a form, just as white nectar with a little bit of rosy red color mixed in it. This is called Rakta Shukla Prabha Mishram. So I will be quiet and you just meditate on her as white, expanding light mixed with a little bit of rosy red. We'll do it for a few minutes. Now please feel how this white light with rosy color, how it slowly fills your whole body. From top it flows down and fills your whole body and thus purifies you. Hopefully you could sense some of the calm that comes with this Sri Vidya meditation, but also a little bit of the blissful or joyful sense. If you like, this is something you can do whenever you feel agitation and you want to go into a sense of calm. Just visualize that expanse of white light mixed with a little bit of rosy red color. Concentrate again and again on it, and then allow this nectar to fill your whole being and purify you. It's very beneficial. So if there are any questions, please feel free. Someone asks, you said that the true nature is beyond sattva, beyond clarity. What does this mean? That the guna sattva is just one stage. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, if you look closely, you will see that sattva has to be transcended. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Go beyond the three gunas, and the guna sattva, sattvam sukhe ranjayati. Sattva causes attachment to joy. So it has to be transcended ultimately. Also the clarity aspect. No, the true nature is not in itself clarity alone. That this is a misunderstanding. Clarity is an aspect that comes to expression, but it has to be cut through. Even bliss has to be cut through. And even the state of non-thought or having no concepts has to be cut through. It is not the true nature. Good that you are asking. Clarity is just an aspect that comes when we engage in practice, but then has to be cut through. It has to be ultimately transcended. And then the true nature, has to be experienced. That is why it is unspeakable. We cannot just say it is this or that. But of course it's good when clarity comes. But if we cling to clarity, then there will be trouble. Clarity, in fact, if we cling to it, causes agitation. It's very strange, but it's true. Similarly, bliss, when we cling to it, actually causes desire. There's a very strange connection there. But these are very deep points now. Any other questions? Remember that the Divine Mother is free from attachment. So it is the bliss that she has is free from attachment. It is not a bliss that, the bliss, the bliss, the bliss. That's not a bliss free from attachment. Bliss free from attachment is just vast like space and is totally free from any holding and clinging. All right, so then let us finish here. I hope you all feel inspired by our great Dharma. Take this human life, this precious human life, use it. Don't let it go to waste. Every moment can be used for Dharma, and thus making yourself a better person, increasing your punya, and also making others increase their punya, and thus using your life meaningfully. Hari Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wishing you a wonderful week. Be inspired, be happy. Hari Om.